Hi there and welcome to FitBody Formula. I'm Gemma, and if you're new or not, I'm so pleased that you're here today, and if you don't already, then consider subscribing to the channel. Now in this video, I'm going to be taking a look at our relationship with food and some of the ways in which we can improve that relationship to ensure a happy, healthy lifestyle. Let me start by asking you a question. Do you have a complicated relationship with food? If so, you are not alone. So many of us have struggled at some point in our life with negative feelings about food. I mean, perhaps you worry that you don't eat enough fruit, or maybe years of dieting have taken the pleasure out of treating yourself to a piece of cake or dessert after a meal out. And it's these negative feelings about food and weight that can derail even the healthiest of lifestyles. So, if the goal is to have a healthy relationship with food, we need to know what that relationship would look like, right? But before we take what a good relationship with food can look like, we need to know what a bad relationship with food looks like, okay? A bad relationship with food usually involves restricting or overeating foods, regular dieting, and feelings of shame or guilt when you eat certain foods. And you may also find that you've struggled with yo-yo dieting and may rely on calorie counters or apps to tell you when you've eaten enough food for the day. And you also tend to ignore your body's natural hunger and fullness cues. Now that we've looked at what a bad relationship with food looks like, let's take a look at what a healthy relationship with food looks like. A good relationship with food involves having unconditional permission to eat the foods that make you feel good physically and mentally, with no foods deemed as off limits and no feelings of guilt when eating foods that are typically labelled bad. It's about being able to eat when you're hungry and stopping when you've had enough. Being able to eat real food and enjoy it without any negative self-judgment and without having to overthink it, and not allowing food to control your life. And you need to think about it in this way. A good relationship with food is like any other relationship, right? It takes time, practice, and a lot of patience. A good relationship with food has absolutely nothing to do with the quality of your diet or the types of foods you eat, but rather how and why you choose those foods. You see, when everything is stripped back, food is simply the fuel we use to nourish and energize ourselves. However, it is important to understand that your relationship with food goes deeper than you just fueling your body, and working on our emotional reaction to what we eat is a great way to help improve our relationship with food. So, in order to begin to reset our relationship with food, we must first acknowledge when, and importantly why, we eat when we do. And next, I'm going to give you a great little exercise to help you with this. Guys, if you're getting value from the video, please smash the like button, and if you don't already, then consider subscribing to the channel. Right, onto the exercise. Start with any recent food or eating related episode that bothers you. Instances of loss of control or feelings of guilt are great places to start. And once you've identified this, write down all the stuff that was happening just before that episode happened. So answer the following questions and make sure to keep everything in a journal as well. Ask yourself and write down, where were you? What were you doing? What were you thinking? What were you feeling? Who were you with? And anything else you notice about that episode. Now, see if you can go back even further. What happened a few hours before that eating episode? And ask yourselves the same questions. And again, note it down in your journal with dates and times. Then when you've collected this information on several episodes, take a look at the data and see if there are any patterns between your food and your eating choices and what actually happened earlier that day. Now, it's okay if you don't see any patterns straight away. Just keep doing this, and when you start to see the patterns, you can then start looking at possible solutions. Then what you need to do is think about how you could disrupt those patterns that you notice. So one example is that we give to a lot of our clients is, okay, something like, I'm gonna go for a workout after I talk to my mum to get some of that energy out. And that's one possible solution that you could use. And you mustn't worry if you don't see solutions right now. The most important thing is to become more aware of how feelings, thoughts, and situations can affect your food and eating choices. And remember that you're your own person. You have your own history with food, your own food preferences. And it is so important to navigate this journey in a way that suits you best. Now, that being said, coming up are some really helpful hints to help you achieve that better relationship with food. Now, if you watch my videos regularly, you are going to recognize this first tip, and that is to practice mindful eating. Mindful eating has become the cornerstone of fixing a bad relationship with food. It involves eating in the moment and being fully present for the entire eating experience. Sit down and engage your senses with every meal. Smell food, look at it, and appreciate the taste of it. You need to be present when you eat, so avoid watching the TV or working on your computer, and avoid looking at your phone. Instead, devote all your attention to what's on your plate. And this can also help you to eat slower and digest your food better. And what's more, eating mindfully can help you identify the reasons for your food choices. For example, you could ask yourself, has this food solved a problem like I thought it would? And remember to make notes of your thoughts in your journal. If you want to find out more about mindful eating, then make sure you check out my video popping up just here. The next tip is to focus on trying to eat only when you're hungry. If you're reaching for food when you're not hungry, ask yourself, how are you feeling emotionally? Why are you reaching for comfort in the form of food? Could you find it elsewhere? Consider going for a walk outside, or working on a project or hobby, or calling up a friend for a chat instead. You see, every person is born with a natural ability to regulate their hunger, and the closer you can get back to listening to your natural hunger cues and paying attention to them, the better you can regulate your appetite and manage your food intake. Another tip is to give yourself unconditional permission to eat and allow all foods into your diet. You see, one sign of a good and healthy relationship with food is allowing yourself unconditional permission to eat. You see, when you create rules around when you can and when you can't eat, you're setting yourself up for feelings of deprivation and fear of food. When you allow all foods into your diet, you can control your intake better, as you know these foods are always available to you and they're not restricted. You see, when you start restricting foods and believe they're a rarity, you're much more likely to overdo it and then end up feeling guilty about it. So aim to start viewing all foods as equal. Then when you stop viewing foods as either good or bad, you remove the food's power. Often people call foods bad when they taste good and aren't very nutritious, so foods that are perhaps high in sugar or high in salt. And as soon as you tell yourself you can't have something, the more you're going to crave it, right? The most important thing is to remember that no one eats perfectly. You see, perfect just doesn't exist. Instead, try to let go of the need for perfection by remembering you're exactly where you need to be. Guys, if you have any questions at all about the information I've gone through, then just pop them in the comments section below and I'll be sure to get back to you. And if you know someone who would benefit from this information, then please feel free to share. I hope you found value from the video. If so, then smash the like button and subscribe to the channel so you don't miss the next one, and I look forward to hanging out with you again real soon.